Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. I'm joined by Amos Murphy. I was thinking about how to introduce you, bro, but you literally do so much stuff. So why don't you tell everyone everything that you do? I remember
Oh,
we're on the clock.
it's like a blind date, isn't it? Good, great, yeah. Podcasting is the main one over at City Report Podcast. We do daily episodes there. My day job is sports journalism, writing, reviewing, all that sort of juicy business. Trying to think of other bits of bobs, bit of TikTok here and there as well. God, you're right. It's hard when you list it off to get everything. But yeah, it's great to be here. It's nice to be in the building. It's been a long time coming. So yeah, I'm excited to chat and what a weekend ahead, hopefully.
I know. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Now, listen, I was just on Sky Sports this morning. We was chatting about us. Me and Robbie was chatting about the weekend, and it's weird, isn't it? These last days because everyone just assumed that City have won the league now. Anyway, everyone because you know what I mean. Like if you say, oh well, you know, and it's like no, you've won it. But like we've had 3 final day Prem wins, if I'm not mistaken, and 2 of them were high stress scenarios, which could have gone the other. Oh, 4. Which one was the other one?
2012, 2014, 2019, 2022. West Ham at home, ironically, that was the chill one, wasn't it? 2014. Brighton, Villa,
Brighton.
QPR.
Oh, damn. I forgot about Brighton. Oh, damn. And they scored first in that one as well.
They scored well, yeah, so it's been free. It's been free, crazy.
My guy Mahrez come to the rescue there. Yeah, no, listen. I mean, that is actually, I completely forgot about Brighton. That's actually insane. Yeah. Now, they are stress scenarios, man. And like I say, everyone just assumes that City have already won the league anyway, as it is. But, like, how do you see this playing out at the weekend? Because for me, I think we've been playing our best football since the Arsenal game. I said that at the time. I actually think the Arsenal game put us in a sort of fight or flight state of where we just had to go and win every single game. I don't think anyone come away from that game really. That Arsenal game saying, oh, we can afford to drop point. I think everyone was sort of in the same position where we're probably going to have to win 9 out of 9. But that suited us and the pressure has made us play our best football. So in that sense, I'm like pretty confident, but obviously the nerves are creeping in. How are you feeling ahead of the game?
Yeah, it's weird. I think had this been, a couple of years ago, I remember back to the Villa game, and that whole week I spent just sort of shivering away somewhere, just thinking, dear me, what's going to go on here? And obviously the worst nearly happened. Thankfully it didn't. This year it's been a bit calmer. I don't know if it's because of the Tottenham game that was in midweek. That felt like a big one. I'd City drawn there, and we're coming into this game and they're having to better Arsenal's goal difference by 4. We're having all sorts of different conversations, aren't we? But yeah, feeling calm, feeling good. I don't agree that it's done and dusted. I do think, I've got a funny feeling that there'll be a moment where City are scratching their heads, and it might be the fact that it's 0-0 at half time, or West Ham take the lead, or City is struggling to get a goal. I don't know. You'd be silly to bet against City, because I think unlike 2022, which was the last time City were in this position, the lads look sort of like they're clued up at this point in the season. They look like they're sort of mentally there. In 2022, the squad was falling apart. There was injuries all over it. It took a miracle. It took a miracle, didn't it? This time they've had the wobbles and they're playing the best football, like you say. So I don't know. But final days are always weird, and I won't be surprised if there's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, if we bring up the our recent results and pull up on screen here, I mean, look at our form since the Arsenal game. I mean,
It's mad.
You're spot on. We are playing, and we have very few injuries. I think everyone's fit. Am I right in saying for this game?
Yeah.
Everyone's fit. So, like you say,
apart from Edison, obviously, but we know about him.
Yeah, apart from Edison. Yeah, my bad. Unlike that game against Villa a few years ago, as you say, when it was slightly different then. But I mean, look at this: 4 goals against Villa, 4 Palace, 5 Luton, 4 Brighton. 2 against Forest, which was obviously tricky. 5 against Wolves, 4 Fulham, and then again 2 against Spurs. But again, really, we could have had a lot of more goals in that game if we were slightly more clinical, or Vicario didn't pull out some world class saves. We are playing our best football. I don't think it can be denied by that. What do you put that down to, bro? I've said for some time that I actually think that these City players and the manager as well thrive being in this high pressure scenario. I actually don't think it suits City being in sort of like a coastal situation. And my sort of evidence to that is City are known as slow starters. City known to by the time we get to Christmas, we're not always sort of cooking as you like. But when it comes down to the final part of the season, everyone knows that we click into gear. The only thing I can put that down to is pressure. I think this City team thrives under pressure. I think it almost prefers to be second and hunting the team at the top. I think it, in a weird way, I think they get off on it, man. I really do. But what do you put it down to, bro?
Yeah, he's pretty much took the words out straight out of my mouth. It is that sort of when you know, like go back to the game against Arsenal, for example, and it was Villa at home in midweek, and all the talk leading into that was City have to win. If they don't win, if they drop points, if they even draw that game, that's the title gone. That's Arsenal's title. That's Liverpool's title, whoever it might have been. And pretty much every game since then, and you've got to say well done to Arsenal because they're not of that level that Liverpool were in 2019, in 2022, where they were just two incredible teams going at it. I think City have dropped off one or two positions, 1 or 2 points, whatever you want to say. Arsenal obviously improving, and 1 point, I do think they will win the league, being that, you know, next year, year after, whenever. But they keep that. They've kept themselves there. Their record since the turn of the year is incredible. I think it's 1 defeat. Obviously, City have had no defeats, and that's going to be the margin probably. But yeah, I agree that when there's something to lose, this City team are just insane. Just ridiculous levels, mentality, everything that you want. I mean, even that Real Madrid game, that second leg, wasn't, you know, amazing from City, but in that second half when they knew they were going out of the competition, I don't know if Real Madrid touched the ball in City's half at one, but you know, that's the sort of pressure these guys play under, and when you put them under that pressure, they seem to deliver. And yeah, since that Arsenal game, it's been sensational.
How have you been feeling recently about this league, bro? Because I tell you this, yeah, I want this league so bad, and I've spoke to my chat. The people watching this will know exactly what I speak about because I speak about it a lot. But for some reason, and I can't pinpoint what it is, but I'm desperate to win this league, and I feel like I want to win this league. I don't want to say more than any other, but it's certainly up there. Like I feel like I've never wanted a league almost as much as this one. Now I don't know whether it's because of the four-peat. I don't know whether it's because of the constant sort of anti-City shit that's been going on this year, which has gone up even more. I don't know whether it's because potentially, obviously, Foden's going to win Player of the Year, and that could sort of like, if he wins the league and wins Player of the Year, that's great for him. I don't know if it's because Arsenal, new team, it's not Liverpool, and I don't really want a new team to win it in this battle and sort of lose our crowd. I don't know what it is, but something in me is desperate to win this league. Do you feel anything slightly different, or you just feel sort of the same as every other league? What are you thinking?
I think it's that carrot of 4 in a row, innit? And the fact no team has ever done that before, ever. You know, going back to the invention of English football, it's never been done. United have done 3 now. It's mad, innit? It's absolutely mad. And look, on Sunday, hopefully it comes true, and after that we can sort of bask in it. But never, ever, 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 ever has a team won 4 league championships in a row. It's bonkers. But yeah, I think as well, part of it is City have had this crown for so long. Someone said the other day, you know, they've only spent 1 season since the start of the 2017-18 season as not as reigning champions. So, like, you're going back now, 6-7 years? And City have had a stranglehold over the league for that long. The last time they didn't start the season as reigning champions was in 2020. So, you know, we're going on best part of half a decade there. And you don't want to give that away. Eventually, one day it will happen. I can't see City doing a Bayern Munich winning 10 in a row, you know, a Celtic 9 in a row, whatever. It's probably going to come to an end soon. It's probably going to come to an end when Pep leaves, whenever that's going to be. But you just want to milk as much success as you can in this era and these players, because they deserve it, man. You know, last year we had Gundogan winning the treble as the captain. Before that, we had the likes of Fernandinho, David Silva, Vincent Kompany. Every season, every era, every sort of year has its guy. And I think you're right, Phil Foden this year, he could be on. This is mad. He just said it on Sky Sports then. Could be on for 6 Premier League titles before the age of 24.
That's actually wild.
It's mad, isn't it? It's crazy. So, you know, he's been the guy this year. And yes, he's won 5 others. But to be the man who sort of drags City to that it'd be incredible.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the list, actually. That's a pretty good. So he's on 5 right now, right? So he should be on.
Yeah.
He should be on this list somewhere if I find him. There he is, 5. Okay, with Kevin De Bruyne as well. Yeah, so if they win this one, they're going to overtake all these and go up to 6 with some of these United players, and then you sort of getting into sort of like the top 5 of all time, and that's where like your name is written, and you know Ryan Giggs will be known in football until the world ends, man, because like there's going to be very few players that get 13 Premier League titles, and it's that sort of legacy. Scholes the same, Neville the same, that like if you can win all these Prems, your name will just live on forever and ever. And obviously that is for Phil Foden. You know, I've actually done a video on this actually in the past, comparing sort of Ryan Giggs's total like honours compared to Foden, and Foden is sort of on course to overtake Ryan Giggs at the current rate. Now, obviously, as you said, when Pep Guardiola, that rate will probably decline. Unfortunately, that's something that we have to accept. But I mean, he's been so good this year. What have you made of the sort of discussion online about Phil Foden? Because I don't know, again, if it comes back to the anti-City hate agenda sort of thing that is clearly evident. A lot of people saying that Phil Foden is completely overrated. I've seen a Palace fan doing a video, which Nobbins. I see.
He tore him apart, didn't he? It was incredible.
Guys, if you've not seen that, go on Nobbins' Twitter, right, and have a look at Nobbins destroyed his fan. I mean, well, what do you make of Phil Foden this year? Obviously, it's his first year really being given the keys to the midfield. He's not had it all his own way. He still had to have, obviously, Kevin De Bruyne battling in the second half of the season. Of course, at one point when Kevin De Bruyne will leave this football club, he will get the full keys. But this is the first season, really, that we've seen him in that midfield consistently. How do you think he's got on this year?
I think it's his team now. Honestly, even though Kevin De Bruyne is still there, I think this has been, and hopefully it ends in a sort of crown in the Premier League, but it's been a coronation year for Foden in terms of passing the buck. This is his team. I think it was evident, it's been evident throughout the season. It wasn't just on Tuesday that De Bruyne is the guy who comes off now. 70 minutes, 75 minutes, whenever it might be. Kev's the person that Pep substitutes. And that used to be Phil Foden. How many times have we sat there going, oh, how frustrating is it that Kevin De Bruyne is having, not the best of games and Foden's the guy coming off the pitch. Whereas this sort of the last few months, it's been Foden who stays on the pitch. And you saw for the Doku penalty, that sort of David Silva-esque pass from the halfway line. Unbelievable pass. He didn't get a goal or an assist, but it's that influence that he has on the team now where you trust him to be the game changer. In the same way that you trusted De Bruyne to be the game changer 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it might be. You want him on the pitch at all times. Not only that, you want him on the ball. And I think that's sort of the best compliment you can pay someone. You can look at his numbers and they're sensational in terms of goals and assists. He's on 25 G&A for the Premier League season from 34 matches. But at the same time, decent players. Cole Palmer, for example, fantastic player, but he's getting penalties. That can skew it a little bit. You look at his G&A, you get the point. Foden's having the influence, which is probably the most important part for a player in Guardiola's team. The fact they're trusted and they're having an impact. So, I genuinely think it's his team. And next season, I think we're going to see that even more. He's played 34 matches in the Premier League. That must be his highest tally.
It is.
Since he started.
He's also the only player with Rodri that's played over 4,000 minutes.
Jesus,
he's the second most played player by minutes in this City team. And look at this, he's so close to 40 goals and assists.
I know.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there's 2 games to go. Who knows? He possibly could get to 40. I mean, there's his minutes there, as you can see, 4,094 this season. That doesn't include any games for England, by the way, which is insane. But I agree. I actually think that a statement that maybe out there, but I actually don't even think we've touched the surface yet. I genuinely don't. I from what I've seen of Foden in the academy, right, when I've seen him in the midfield, and what I've seen of his development, I honestly think there's still so much more to come in that midfield. And I actually think that when Kevin De Bruyne leaves, I think he's going to take another step up, because he is going to be the guy. And I agree to a certain extent with you that he is the main guy right now, but you still got Kevin De Bruyne there, and his numbers since he's come back in have been ridiculous. I think when he leaves, Phil Foden will be the guy, right? You have to do this now. We're not waiting for Kevin, because he's not here anymore. You are that guy. And I just think that he's going to take it up a gear. And obviously, if Kevin De Bruyne does another year or maybe 2, you're going to see that when he's sort of 25, 26, Phil Foden, he's really starting to come into his peak years. I think that when he gets to that age, I honestly think that you're going to be seeing 40 goals and assists every year.
And he thrives in it as well. You can see, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if he took the armband at one point, because he's matured to a different level. And I think 2022, 2021, he had fantastic seasons. That Champions League run in 2021 was fantastic, but he still looked like a little kid. He still looked like that sort of fledgling player, that young player who'd broken through the academy, was having fantastic seasons. This time he's taken it on his shoulders, and he looks like a man. He looks like a seasoned pro, and he's on course for 6 Premier League titles. He's got all the experience in the world, and he's not even 24. It's mad.
Where'd you get him in the England team? This is another
Great
like
question.
sort of this is another debate, and I really think that it really tells me whether or not you know about football, depending on your answer. Because I'm like, there's so many people who say like he doesn't even get in the England team, and I just like, that has to be anti-City. That I come on, man. Like, are you really being serious that Phil Foden, a guy that's on course to potentially get 40 goal involvements in a single year, you're telling me that he's not getting in the England team? I mean, how would you set up England with Phil Foden? Because of course you've got Jude Bellingham in there, probably needs to be in there. You've got Saka, you've obviously got Kane, and there's a couple of others in there as well. How would you set up?
That's a great question. Do you know what? I actually feel sorry for Southgate in a way, because you look at his defence and it's like a banged up Nissan Micra, and you go up front and it's like, this gleaming Ferrari, because England do have a very top heavy team. I think though, everyone would love to see a midfield of Rice, Bellingham, Foden. It would obviously mean Bellingham drops a little bit further back, or you ask Foden to do that job. He's probably capable, but he's never really played that position at City.
Yeah. I think Bellingham would be better dropping deep. I think
Yeah,
he's better on the ball in that sense.
Yeah, but then you possibly lose the risk of him getting the goals. That he's done very well at Madrid. It's a question. It's a question, and I genuinely don't envy Southgate in that position, because you look at the attack, and we're talking about one of possibly Ivan Toney or Watkins not even making the squad, let alone the starting 11. They're a top class forward. Cole Palmer as well. He's got to be in and around there at some point. Anthony Gordon. I mean, I'd love Anthony Gordon. I think he's a sensational player, but does he even make the squad, let alone sort of getting any minutes? Sancho, I've been balling out at Dortmund again. All the attackers England have, it does create this problem, but you have to find a way to make it work, and that's been the problem for England managers in the past. Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, etc. How do you build a midfield around them? It seems like it's going to be the same for Southgate, but he's got to play. That's a given, and I think he will, to be fair. He's one of those players that you get him on the pitch. If it has to be out wide, it's not my favourite position, but I don't hate it. I still think he's a world-class winger. Obviously, he could play in the middle at some points. I don't know. But he has to play. He has to start every game. That means something for England. The only time he shouldn't be is if the group's wrapped up, or the game's wrapped up, or he's injured or whatever.
Yeah. No, I'd love to see us run Rice, Bellingham, and Foden in the middle, and just full send it and just see what happens. It might be a disaster. We might get overrun in midfield, but I think that would be
the defence is stinky though, isn't it? The defence is absolutely bobbins.
It is not ideal. Yeah, and obviously, yeah, you've got Pickford in goal, which I'm not a massive fan of Pickford. I think it's slightly overrated. Our right backs this year, none of them have really done particularly well, which is kind of wild, because like at the start of the season, we probably had like the 4 best right backs in the world if you looked at them like as a combined. Reece James can't stay fit. Walker's
he doesn't want to play football, does he? He's a work from home right back.
Yeah, sure he is. Yeah, he's a furloughed right back. That's what he is. You got Trent, who started the season really well and then sort of tailed off, and it's just kind of crazy. And of course, on the left hand side, if you went back 3 or 4 years, you've got 2 of the best left backs in Chilwell and Shaw, and now it's like, do you want either one of them to play? So it's interesting. Listen, I want to turn it on to a couple of other English lads that we've got. Jack Grealish. Very interesting season for Grealish. Probably, if we're being honest, probably his worst season since he's been at the football club. He's had some tricky moments that are out of his control. Injuries, for example. If we remember was it the Copenhagen game? He come back from that game, 20 minutes. We were playing really well. A lot of people were saying he was a large part of that, then got injured. He's obviously had the burglary at his house, which I think affected him. Well, I know for a fact it affected him a lot more than people may know. There's then rumours and speculation about him potentially leaving. Granted, the rumours are from sources that are not the best sources in the world, but the rumours and speculations are there. He's now not getting in the team because Pep Guardiola's favouring this new system of Gvardiol on the left and obviously playing Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne in the middle. And you can't really do that if Grealish is playing, because then you can't play Kovacic, and he's played so well. What have you made of Grealish this sort of as a season? And did you read anything into these rumours? Is it pure speculation? Do you think there is a chance that he could leave? And how does he get himself back into the team next year if he does stay? Given that we're playing so well in this new system.
Yeah, I sort of working back to front there. Do I think he leaves? No. Not only do I think that no club would be able to afford him, what City would ask for him, but also his wages are astronomical. And also we've seen Guardiola defend him to the hill, and I genuinely believe, be whatever issues he has elsewhere, he is a player who Guardiola will defend and will find a way to work. And how does he get back in the team? Well, this time last year, you would have said that Jack Grealish is an automatic starter whenever. And I think that's the beauty of a Guardiola 11, that it constantly changes. You know, we didn't even know the strongest 11 this season until about 2 months ago. So I think he's always got a chance. Obviously, he'll have to work on himself. His England place is at risk. That could derail him. That could spur him on. I don't know. That's probably to come. But this season has been... It's been an issue. There's no sort of beating around that bush at all. It's been frustrating for him more than anyone. I think he'll be the most frustrated out of everyone. The fact that he had the season of his life last year, and obviously he's not the dazzling Doku. He's not going to be skipping past 10 players and netting one in the bottom corner, but he was crucial to City in the way they wanted to play, and he was that midfielder out wide, and he offered that control, and it won City the treble. Obviously, it wasn't because of Jack Grealish, but he played a key part in that. And then this year, issues with injury. I know he started, was it the second game of the season? I think he was missing from that. Something along those lines, you know, right from the off, really struggled with those injuries. Couldn't stay fit, has had the issues, had the off-field issues. I think you write it off. I think you just write the season off, because it has been one of those years where everything that's happened to him has been a frustration. You know, look at that. It's just it's a string of getting in the team, then dropping out, and then getting in the team, then dropping out.
What you want to see here, you want to just see white everywhere. Yeah. And what you're seeing is like white, red, white, orange. Obviously on the bench, he doesn't get. In fact, this might be actually. What's the most amount of matches he's played in a row?
4. It's 4, isn't it? It's that one there. Yeah, 4 starts.
That is interesting. How he's not played more than 4 Premier League games in a row. Now, obviously, he might have played a Carabao Cup game or whatever in there, but Premier League, he's really struggled to get in the team and hold it. Now, obviously, he was fit at this point. Sheffield United, he got subbed off after 52 minutes and then was on the bench, but clearly whatever happened in that Sheffield United game, Pep didn't like, because he was on the bench and then didn't really play. But yeah, a story of his season that he's just not been able to get in the team, impact the game, and get that consistent spot. Then it's been made worse, really, if you think about it, because how Phil Foden done in the middle part of the year, and then Kevin De Bruyne's come back. It really made it worse, because then everyone's kind of saying, Pep, you have to play Foden and Kevin De Bruyne in the same team. But if you play Foden and Kevin De Bruyne in the same team, you kind of need either Stones to push in the middle, or you need Kovacic, in my opinion. Now, obviously, Stones hasn't had a particularly great season himself, actually, funny enough, and he's been injured a lot. So Kovacic has had to play there. And something that I said recently on a stream, and I maintain this, I don't think you can have Kovacic and Grealish in the same team when you need to win football matches. If you've got a couple draws in the bank, maybe it's all right. But you need gunmen, you need players who are going to score. Grealish doesn't score, nor does Kovacic, and I think you can only really afford to have one of them in the team. And if Kovacic isn't there, you could have John Stones pushing in, and maybe Grealish, because that still gets you your Foden and Kev. But I think that's another reason that Grealish has struggled. So it will be interesting to see listen, I think he will stay. I know there is some rumours flying around and they've not gone away, but like you say, who's going to pay the money? Who's going to pay his wages? There's very few teams that can do that, and I just hope that next season he has. What I hope is next season he has an injury-free season, because then there's no excuses. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like if he doesn't perform well next year, then it is what it is. But when a player is constantly getting injured, a little bit like John Stones, you know, you feel a little bit harsh criticising them, because it's like any footballer needs. I mean, look at Haaland, for example. He come back from his injury and he needed 2 or 3 months before he started finally getting back into it. You know, you need to be fit. You need to be match sharp. And I really feel for Grealish, because I thought that this season could have been a kick-on year from what he did last year. You sort of mentioned it as well. So it will be interesting. Another player that I wanted to touch on, a player that's got a lot of criticism, but potentially could lift 4 trophies as captain of this team, and that's Kyle Walker. Now, I know obviously when he was going to leave, he was going to go to Bayern Munich. Pep Guardiola took him out, wined and dined him, and obviously kept him. There was a lot of City fans at the time, Amos. I don't know what your opinion was. I'm interested to hear from you. That thought that was a mistake. And maybe some City fans, especially in the first 2/3 of the season, maybe said, yeah, it was a mistake. But he seems to me, this last third of the season, to have been all right, actually. What's your thoughts on Walker? Do you think he's got a little bit too much criticism? Do you think the criticism's valid? And yeah, just sort of general opinions on Walker. Do you think he'll be here next year?
Yeah, I've been flip-flapping, to be honest. When the saga was happening, I was a bit like, you know what, if he left, then it wouldn't be the worst outcome in the world. Then he started the season. I thought he started the season really well, to be honest. He was playing that sort of that high role we've seen now, but he was influencing games a little bit more. He made that mistake against Sheffield United where he kept the ball and they equalised, but he went down the opposite end, and I think he was really crucial in getting that goal.
He was.
Yeah, the Rodri winner. The middle part of the season was tough, to be honest, but I think it was tough for everyone, and I think Walker, between then and now, has grown into that leadership role. Because let's not forget, he's been here since 2017, and through that time he's had Vincent Kompany, he's had David Silva, he's had Fernandinho, he would have missed Sabaleta, but basically what I'm getting at, he's had a core sort of group of players above him, and then suddenly, slowly but surely, he's found himself as the most senior fella in the team, bar De Bruyne, obviously. And I think that sort of takes a bit of getting used to. He hasn't necessarily had that pressure on his shoulders. I thought he was great against Spurs, to be honest. And I think...
I thought he was good.
Yeah.
Probably one of his best games of the season, actually.
For sure. He had probably a bit much time going forward than most people would have liked. I think a lot of City supporters would have preferred a different, more effective player on the ball to be in those positions. But at the same time, going the opposite way, he was great. Against Real Madrid in the second leg, he was fantastic. And I think this is going to miss quite a bit, but there is rumours that he's been carrying a bit of an injury since obviously he went off on England duty, missed the Arsenal game, missed the Real Madrid away match, came back and has been sort of playing quite a lot of football, but at the same time, maybe having been playing through an injury. And I think, that's the sacrifices we don't see all the time. And it can be tough. And he's then putting his next couple of years as a professional at risk just to try and get City across the line this season. So I think he'll go down, big picture, he'll go down as one of City's best players of this era. He'll go down as one of the best Pep signings. He'll probably, for my money, go down as the best right back in Premier League history, just in terms of quality. This season, he could go on and lift the Premier League as captain. Who knows what the summer brings? I think I'd be in the same position again, to be honest with you, where I said, if someone stumped up 25 mil, would you then go and sell him? If it meant, for example, Frimpong came in the opposite way, yeah, perhaps, because he is getting on a bit. But at the same time, in the here and now, I think he has been sort of harshly done by. And don't get me wrong, I was criticising him a lot, and I think he's proven quite a few people wrong.
You know what it is? And I'll bring this up on screen, actually. He's played a lot of football this year. Third most played player for Manchester City there, as you can see. And he'll end the season plus 4,000 minutes, not including England, this, by the way, guys. I'll leave that up for a second so you guys watching can have a look. It might be interesting to see the hierarchy of numbers there. But yeah, listen, I don't think he's had a particularly great season, but ultimately, if we go on and win 4 trophies, you know what I mean, he's captained the side. And I think, again, he's had a difficult personal situation, which I've got to say he brought on himself, and that obviously doesn't help. I'm a firm believer that what goes on in your private life affects what happens on the pitch.
Definitely.
That's not an excuse, by the way, because obviously he's done it himself. But listen, it's not been a particularly good year, but he's finishing strong, and that's the main thing for me. Like he's improving. If he was continually to stay the same or get worse as the season goes on, then that would be an issue. But I think the last month, 2 months, don't get me wrong, he's still made mistakes. He's still not been the best Kyle Walker, but like you just mentioned, the Spurs game probably was his best match all season that he's played. You're right going forward, but again, that's not really his fault. We all know he can't cross a ball. But defensively, he done really well. So I think that when you're a player like Walker, who, you said it yourself, probably the best right back we've ever seen in this country, the standards are set. So you're going to get criticised when you deviate from that standard. Lionel Messi would have got cooked if he had a couple of off games. Because that's what happens when you're the best. Because same with Rodri actually. When Rodri has a slightly off game, he's probably still the best DM in the league, and that performance. A lot of other teams in the Premier League will probably look at it and say, "Well, I'd take that." But as City fans, we know he can do better than what he gives us. So then he says, "Right, okay, wasn't one of the best Rodri performances," and that's the same with Kyle Walker. So it will be interesting to see if City cash in. I think that the weight of having the captain's armband is also probably underestimated. And I think that maybe it's not helped by the fact that, the players pick it, and it's almost as if, like, doesn't really matter that much because Pep doesn't really care about it. The players pick it, but... So then if you're playing, you're like, well, if I get it, I'm buzzing. Like, no one really cares. But I think once you've actually got that on your shoulder, on your arm, and you're the man, you're the captain, and when things are going wrong, which actually, if you look at this season, we've had a lot of things go wrong this year, and you're the man that everyone's looking to. You're the guy who's got to lead the team out of the mess. And all of a sudden you're going, actually, this captain thing, it's no joke. So it'll be interesting. I think if City get an offer of 25 million, he's 33. When's he turn 34? He turns 34 in July, so...
Getting on a bit.
Sorry, at the end of May he'll turn 34. So, yeah, if City get a decent offer, Frimpong's got a release clause. Yeah, and obviously Akanji can play right back. John Stones can play right back. It would not surprise me if he left. So, yeah, guys, let us know in the comment section below on Kyle Walker. Do you think City should cash in? If we get an offer of, say, 25 million... You think City should cash in or keep him? Listen, you mentioned it earlier on. Edison out injured now for the rest of the season, so Ortega's going to play the game against West Ham at the weekend, and obviously the derby in the FA Cup final. We got to talk about the save first of all against Heung-min Son. First of all, I don't know if you was you at the game?
No, I was at home, I was working.
Bro.
I can't imagine what it'd been like in the stadium. I think my soul would have left my body.
Absolutely incredible. You know what? Because I'm not mentioning Akanji. I've been Akanji's biggest fan this season. I've been raving about him. I think he's been absolutely superb. I think he's been our best defender in my opinion all season. Yeah. And it would have been insane if that would have resulted in a goal. But yeah, talk to me about Stefan Ortega. He's only got a year left on his contract. The rumours is that City have offered him 2 or 3 deals. He's not accepted any of them yet. He's obviously looking at potentially making a move to be a first choice starter. And I think that's compounded by the fact that he's not been selected for Germany, which is kind of wild. But you can, at the same time, maybe understand it because he's not playing regular football. Yeah, any concerns with Stefan Ortega? I assume not. And where do you see his future? Do you think he's going to say, I need to leave, I need to play first team football somewhere?
Yeah, concerns, no, not at all. I think he's sensational. We've seen that, and it's easy to forget actually that he joined from a relegated club in Arminia Bielefeld in Germany. And yeah, don't get me wrong, there was interest from other big clubs, but City took a little bit of a risk. They obviously saw the issues they'd had with Zach Steffen, with Muric, with even going back to Claudio Bravo. That second role with someone like Edison, who is such a front foot goalkeeper, he's probably more likely or not throughout a season going to get himself injured at least once. Not that it was his fault, but going back to his first season with the Sadio Mane incident, he comes rushing out, great header, clears the ball, but obviously gets a boot to the head and has to go off injured. That's just sort of the player he is. So I don't think I think it was a risk, but obviously it's one that has paid off. He was amazing in that FA Cup run last year. He's been great again this year. He's been subbed on 4 times, which is it's mad for a goalkeeper to think that they've been coming off the bench 4 times in the Premier League. I wonder if this season, this last sort of half of the season, seeing Edison's fragility a little bit, Ortega goes, you know what, this gig isn't bad. I'm playing in the cup games, I'm winning trophies, touch wood again, it happens this year. I'm playing the odd Premier League game. I've played more Premier League football than I probably bargained for. I quite like this. And I wonder if he now has a bargaining chip where he can say, look, Mr. Pep Guardiola, I've bailed you out at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Let's face it, he's the reason City have got their first win in the Premier League at that ground. Can you maybe, can we come to a deal? I don't know if it's the fact that he might play the Champions League group stage games as well, even though that format's changing a bit next year. Whatever it might be, I think City have to. They don't have to go all out and keep him because let's face it, it's not the end of the world if Ortega leaves. It doesn't mean City are going to be less or more likely to win the Premier League, but if he's there, if he's an option and he's happy to play second fiddle, you have to try and make that work in whatever capacity, because City don't have a Premier League title this season if he's not the second choice goalkeeper. Would anybody expect Muric or Zach Steffen to make that save? It's nothing against them. Most people probably wouldn't have even expected Edison to make that save. He is a world-class goalkeeper, and that sounds a lot, but I truly believe it. If he wants to leave, then look, I don't think anyone can have any complaints, but at the same time, if City can do anything they can to keep him, within reason, I think they should definitely, because just immense. And he seems like a lovely lad as well. Saw it on the Netflix documentary. They've got that bond within the three goalkeepers, so you don't want to disrupt that unless it's totally necessary.
Yeah. No, it's a tricky one. I think City should do everything possible to try and keep him, but ultimately, if his mind is saying, I want to play for Germany, clearly the only way I can do that is if I make a move, then you can't really regret it. Listen, City are going to make a lot of money if they sell him. We got him on a free transfer. I'd be annoyed if they sold him for anything less than 30 million, even with only a year left on his deal, because in the current market, like, he walks into most
that year
teams.
Could be worth 30 million. If he left on a free next season, then fair enough, but that year next season could be worth 30 mil.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm just looking now. He's played more minutes than Matheus Nunes this year, which is
no way. I didn't even clock that.
yeah. He's played more minutes than Nunes. He's played more minutes than Bob, Sergio Gomez. So yeah, you are right as well with way Edison plays. He's going to get injured a few times, and you've seen that a lot this year. Edison getting them injuries. So it's going to be interesting. Listen, I want to come back to the Spurs game and do a starting 11 because I've seen some people thinking, oh, shall we put John Stones back in? Shall we make a few changes? I like consistency. I like the way we've been playing. I love John Stones. I really, really do. But ultimately, I'm going down the consistency route. What's been working for us in these 10 games? We've been playing our best football. Why change it? But I'm going to let you take the reins here. Obviously, I'll whack Ortega. Why don't you take me through your back four, or back five, or back three, whatever you want to do. You're the manager for today.
Yeah, gonna run wild. Let's get Sergio Gomez in. I reckon it's probably, as much as I'd love to see John Stones, as much as I'd love to see Jack Grealish, I reckon we're looking at a copy and paste job, to be honest, because that's been the last few weeks, hasn't it? So I reckon Kyle Walker goes in there. In fact, I think Kyle Walker is a must. You look at the way West Ham will transition, the sort of players they've got. I would love him to be in there. I think it's his sort of game. That would leave Diaz and Akanji. I reckon those two could definitely be the centre half. I think the only question, to be fair, though, is does Nathan Ake come back in? Because Akanji made that mistake. And look, I totally agree. I think he's been City's most consistent defender this year. But we saw it in the Champions League final, a bit of a horror show in terms of that pass back. We saw it against Spurs. In that high-pressure environment, it's a question, it's a risk, I don't know, but they're the guys, they've done it. So I think I'm happy with that back four. Midfield.
Just a quick one, can I ask you about Ruben Dias as well? What have you made of this season? He's had a very topsy-turvy year as well, very volatile. I don't think, first half of the season, I'm going to say, I think he was really poor by his own standards, but then I think since the Club World Cup, he's got better. He's not been amazing since then, but I thought, again, Spurs thought he was really, really good, probably again one of his best performances of the season. What's your sort of assessment on Ruben Dias this year, and what do you put that volatility down to? Is it the constant changing of who he's playing with? Is it the fact that maybe Walker's not been playing well? Is it the fact that he's playing with Akanji now and not Stones, and it's a new player, a new relationship? What's going on there? Because a couple of years ago he was the best centre back in world football, we were saying.
Yeah, I think he's still sort of that quality, but something that Ruben Dias excels with is a consistent partner, and it's no surprise. Last season taught us pretty much everything we needed to know about City and the players. Jack Grealish, obviously one of the main examples, but Ruben Dias, John Stones next to each other, probably the most consistent partnership, centre-back partnership City have had, definitely under Pep Guardiola, possibly under this sort of the new ownership going back to 2008. And that's the sort of player Diaz needs. He needs that trust almost. It doesn't matter if it's going to be John Stones stepping in. It doesn't matter if it's going to be Akanji sweeping up, Nathan Ake, whoever. But he needs to know what the other guy's doing, basically. And I think at times Diaz is that front foot defender who will like to pressure, who will like to get into the face of attackers. You almost need to know what's going on behind you, when to step up, when not to, etc., etc. So I reckon part of his issues has been that questioning himself as to in certain situations. You know, Chelsea away, for example, it was a bit of a brain fart, that penalty that he gave away, but it was just that sort of, okay, so I have to kind of be the guy to do it myself when he didn't. And he does have those moments in him, doesn't he? You know, he can be a little bit rash. He's almost a little bit like Otamendi in that sense, where, you know, he'll rush in, he'll make a mistake. It is what it is. But I do think if City can find a solid centre-back partnership next year, that's one half of winning the league done. Because Ruben Dias on his day is like, you know,
and you've seen that with Arsenal this year.
Man. You know, they've played 36 games together, I think it is, Saliba and Gabriel, which is
they've only had 3 centre-back partnerships this year. 3. Arsenal. I don't know how many City have had, but we know it's more than 3. We can say that. Okay, Rodri in the middle. So you going for the same system with De Bruyne and Foden in the middle?
I think another question is Kovacic. Does he play? And although if I'm looking at it in isolation as a one-off game, I'm probably saying no. I'm probably looking to bring in a bit more width, because that was the one issue I thought City had against Spurs, where they could have done. And look, Doku's been fantastic off the bench. Don't get me wrong, and I wouldn't have necessarily started him. But a wide man like that, a Grealish, a Doku, someone like that, even if, you know, it's a shame Oscar Bob isn't a year or two older, because that was his sort of game. So I reckon if in isolation I would have gone for a winger, but in this one, you trust the team that's done it the last few weeks. So I think Kovacic. Yeah. Although I'd say him and Akanji are the only question marks we're looking at. Which obviously leaves Foden, Bernardo, and Erling Haaland. And I reckon Erling Haaland this next couple of weeks, we could see something special, because he wasn't one of the guys, was he, last year in that treble winning sort of last few games. He wasn't the man who steps up. Obviously, he stepped up numerous times throughout the season, but he strikes me as the sort of guy who wants to have his name in the lights in terms of scoring the winning goal to win the league. This was last year, whatever. Amos.
So didn't score in the final or either of the semi-finals against Real Madrid. And if we look at the league, what did he do towards the end? Yeah, didn't score in either of the final 3. But did we have the? It was
Chelsea, Brighton, Brentford was all wrapped up. So I guess he got a goal in the game that sort of secured City the title against Everton. Arsenal lost in late that day.
Fair, and then the FA Cup. What did he do in the FA Cup?
It was Gundogan, yeah.
Yeah, didn't score in the semis or the final. So you're probably right. You know, I feel as well last year a lot of people sort of disrespected him in terms of what we managed to achieve. So he probably wants to do something, and then. Yeah, okay, interesting. So the only ones for you there is Kovacic and Manuel Akanji. Be interesting to see what you guys in the chat think about this. Would you stick with this team, the team that's been winning, the team that's been playing the best football, or do you think that no, you have to look at what we're playing against? You have to look at the negatives from Spurs and the fact that maybe width was slight of an issue and or whatever. Let us know in the comment section below. To be honest with you, I stick with this team. I just think that this is what's been getting us the best football we've played all year. This has been what's winning us games, and I just think, why change a winning recipe? Leave Doku on the bench if you need him, which hopefully we don't, because that means something's not going right. You've got him on the bench there, you can bring him on. But I just think the way we've been playing, pushing Gvardiol up, putting Foden in the middle and having De Bruyne, Foden there, obviously Bernardo out on the wing. I just think that's the way to go. I really, really do. Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, score predictions. How do you see it going? Did you think it will be? You said earlier on that you wouldn't surprise you if it was 0-0 at half time. Go on. How do you think it's going to go?
Again, if it's in isolation, City at home to West Ham, you're saying 3-0 City. It's just that it's the final day of the season. And it's impossible to predict, because that pressure is a different type of pressure. City at Spurs, they knew they had to win or they'd be out the title race. Mm-hmm. This is different. This is win to win the league, and it possibly depends on what Arsenal do. You know, if Arsenal go 3-0 up inside half an hour, Jesus, the Etihad Stadium will go from sort of bouncing to jittery, assuming City aren't 1-0 up or 2-0 up themselves. Look, I think, like we said at the top, City in previous years running into the final sort of day of the season, they've been on last legs, they've been pushing themselves, they've had injuries. This is a different sort of situation though. So Guardiola in the past has overcome the hurdles that have been thrown at him. Sometimes he needs a little bit of luck, don't get me wrong. Champions League final against Inter was a perfect example of that. Spurs was another example of that. But I just think these guys are locked in. They're looking ice cool. They know it's 2 more finals. They've been like that for the last couple of months since that Villa game where City started this winning run. You've got to back him. You've got to back him probably comfortably as well.
Yeah, just some interesting news literally dropping as we're recording. Pep Guardiola's just said Kevin De Bruyne will be assessed in training today ahead of West Ham
that
on
changes
Sunday.
the team, doesn't
Yeah,
it? I'm glad we just did that.
Exactly. Kevin De Bruyne has said himself that he thinks he's all right, but obviously he's clearly not that all right if he's still going to be assessed. Let's just play devil's advocate. If he's not available, which hopefully he is, if he's not available from this team, then what do you do?
That is a really, really difficult question because I think you're looking at bringing in one of the wide men, which would then be either Doku, who's in form, but I prefer him to come off the bench. I think he's a better impact player than he is a starter at the moment. Not saying that he will be that forever, but I just think that's sort of where he is. Or you go for Jack Grealish, who has played next to no football over the last month, 2 months, has been hot and cold, but obviously has the trust of the manager. Honestly, I think this is how I would look at it. What would you prefer to have as an option if things go wrong? Would you prefer to have Jack Grealish as an option to come off the bench and try and change things, or would you prefer to have Jeremy Doku as an option? And I think I'd prefer to have Doku as the option and start Grealish and hope it goes to plan with the 11 that start and you don't need to change things, as opposed to, oh no, the first starting 11 isn't working. Julian Alvarez, I mean, he's another option. He's come in for De Bruyne, hasn't he? But I don't. It worked at the start, it might work now, but I think with Foden in that position, you want him to be the guy that gets the most touches in and around Haaland. If you have Alvarez, then Foden almost has to drop deeper a little bit or has to drift out wide. So I'll tell you what, it's a tough question.
Can I throw out a possible solution? Let me, and then you can ask the question. Let me throw out my possible solution here. So how do I get off this? So if I move Foden, in fact, let me put Grealish in to start. Grealish, Foden in this position. Could you do something like this?
I don't hate it.
And I guess really in this situation you give Foden the keys. A little bit like when we played Newcastle at home. It was Kovacic and Rodri, if I remember correctly, and then Foden played that situation. Could you play something like that? Because then you still got the control in the middle. You still got your Rodri and Bernardo Silva. But I think if you're only playing Foden as that real main creative player, I think I'd rather have Bernardo than Kovacic, just because he gives you a little bit more. And then you've still got your Doku and your Grealish on the wing. Could you run something like that potentially?
I don't hate it at all, and I'm just looking, speaking of that Villa game, that this season, the 4-1 win, apart from Rico Lewis, who was in for Kyle Walker, and apart from Julian Alvarez, who was in for Erling Haaland, that's the team City ran with. Gvardiol on the left, Diaz, Akanji, Ortega actually played that game as well, Rodri, Bernardo Silva as the pivot, Doku on the right, Grealish on the left, Foden in the middle, Alvarez up front. Foden got a hat-trick that day, and I think that's sort of what we've been getting at, in the sense that you've got to, if De Bruyne isn't there, which is fair enough, if he is, you play him, but you've got to give Foden that license, because he's the guy that makes it happen. And I was going to ask you though, if you could only have Kevin De Bruyne for one of the next 2 matches, obviously United in the cup final week on Saturday, West Ham on Sunday, what are you going for?
United.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Because I think against United, I think he'll tear him a new one.
Yeah,
he's got the ability to ruin Manchester United on his own. Because United are so shambolic, like they have no structure to them. They have no structure to their team. And I think if you put Kevin De Bruyne against a team that has no structure and no real presence or setup, I just think his passing can run riot. Like you've seen him before against United. Like they don't know how to deal with him. Whereas West Ham, they do have structure. And I know they've suffered some big defeats this year. But if Moyes gets the team up for it and gets them working on the training ground, they can have structure and they can be more difficult. And therefore, what I'm basically saying is there's more chance for me that Kevin De Bruyne could be less impactful against West Ham than Man United, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
And when you're playing against a team with real... If West Ham come and just sit on the edge of the penalty area, I actually think sometimes Foden's a better option, because what you need is a player to take a risk, is drop a shoulder and try and take a man on. Because if you take a man on and break that structure of West Ham's setup, then someone else has to step out of their line, and the structure crumbles. Whereas if Kevin De Bruyne's more of a passer, yeah, and I think that's more easy to defend when you've got that real good defensive unit. So yeah, for me, I would rather have him against Man. I mean, I'd rather have him for both. But if you pick me one, it would be United. Why are you the same?
Yeah, totally. I think in a one-off game as well, you want De Bruyne because, as shambolic as they have been, all it would take is a bounce of the ball in United, of course, City a problem, a set piece or something, and you need that guy, you need De Bruyne just out of nothing, like we saw at Spurs, that reverse pass to Haaland. So yeah, I'm totally. I think, do you know what? Even more than that, if De Bruyne isn't 100%. And there is a risk of aggravating something, or there is a problem that he could pick up going into that final, I probably won't even play him anyway. I have him on the bench, obviously, because speaking of that impact player, there's none better in world football. But just don't risk that for Sunday's gain, and then risk yourself, for Saturday. So if he's not 100%, then I don't think I'd risk him.
Again, guys, let us know in the chat. I guarantee there's people screaming at us saying, "Not risking, it's the final game of the season. What are you talking about?" Yeah, let us know in the comment section below whether or not you agree with us. But listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you did, obviously make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe. Please give us all your comments in down below as well. You can find Amos on the City Report podcast. He does a lot of articles as well, City Extra and various stuff. I'll link his Twitter handle in the description. But yeah, listen, mate, are you going to the game on Sunday or the FA Cup final? Or?
Yeah, going to be at both. Sunday, last home game of the season. Next weekend, last game of the season. Should be a good one. And I think as well, just final note, we've got to savour these times because they're not gonna last forever. It could end in worst possible scenario, 2 defeats for City, and we're cursing ourselves heading into the Euros. But I think this team are special. They're a special group of players, and to be in a position now where they could win the League and Cup double after doing the treble last year, I mean, special team.
Yeah, absolutely. Echo those sentiments. Right, guys, we're going to get off. Smash a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.